In 2022, Sri Lanka plunged headfirst into its worst economic crisis in modern history, a period of unprecedented hardship and instability. The island nation, once a beacon of South Asian progress, found itself grappling with challenges that threatened its very foundation. Years of mounting debt, accumulated through ambitious projects and unsustainable spending, poorly timed tax cuts, implemented with the hope of stimulating the economy but ultimately backfiring, and the sudden collapse of tourism during the COVID-19 pandemic, which decimated a vital source of revenue, pushed the nation to the brink, ultimately leading to a default on its foreign loans, a move that sent ripples of concern throughout the international financial community. The government's official admission of default, a moment of stark realization, sent shockwaves through global markets, highlighting the interconnectedness of the world economy and the potential for localized crises to have far-reaching consequences. The crisis profoundly impacted the lives of ordinary citizens and devastated daily life. Inflation soared to a staggering 70%, eroding purchasing power and making it increasingly difficult for families to afford essential items. This hyperinflation made basic goods unaffordable for millions, pushing many into poverty and exacerbating existing inequalities. The rupee collapsed against major currencies, further fueling inflation and making imports prohibitively expensive. Consequently, long lines for fuel, gas, and medicine became commonplace, and these queues, often stretching for miles, became the new normal, a stark symbol of the nation's economic woes. Schools closed due to shortages of resources, and teachers unable to reach their posts. Businesses shuttered their doors, unable to cope with rising costs and dwindling demand, and families struggled to feed themselves, facing the agonizing choice between food and other necessities. Malnutrition rates rose alarmingly, particularly among children, highlighting the devastating human cost of the crisis. Faced with such dire circumstances, many sought to leave the country in search of better opportunities and a glimmer of hope for the future. Unsurprisingly, the economic crisis quickly turned political, sparking mass protests across the island, with citizens demanding accountability from their leaders and calling for fundamental change in the way the country was governed. The government, overwhelmed by the scale of the crisis, failed to provide quick and effective solutions, further fueling public anger and frustration. This ultimately led to major political upheaval, including the ousting of key leaders and a period of intense instability. Looking back from 2025, even with signs of recovery, the deep scars of 2022 serve as a stark reminder of how fragile even seemingly stable economies can be when fiscal discipline falters and external shocks occur. The arduous journey out of that economic abyss has required painful sacrifices from the Sri Lankan people and the implementation of tough, often unpopular, economic reforms. Understanding the full depth and complexity of this crisis is key not only to understanding Sri Lanka's ongoing recovery, but also to preventing similar crises from unfolding elsewhere. The lessons learned from Sri Lanka's experience resonate far beyond its shores, offering crucial warnings and valuable insights for other vulnerable nations navigating the complexities of the global economy. Emerging from the depths of the unprecedented 2022 economic crisis, Sri Lanka faced a daunting task. The challenges were immense, the path forward uncertain, but the spirit of the nation remained unbroken. Sri Lanka began a difficult path to recovery, a journey marked by tough decisions and unwavering resolve. The initial steps involved stabilizing the economy and laying the groundwork for sustainable growth. This story is about resilience, the ability of a nation and its people to bounce back from adversity. It's a testament to the strength found in unity and the power of collective action. It's a narrative woven with tough reforms, the kind that test the mettle of a nation and the complexities of international diplomacy, where every move is carefully calculated. The International Monetary Fund became central to Sri Lanka's recovery, offering a lifeline when it was needed most. Their involvement would prove critical in navigating the turbulent waters ahead. The IMF stepped in, approving an extended fund facility, a comprehensive package designed to address the country's economic vulnerabilities and promote long-term stability. This lifeline came after months of intense negotiation, a delicate dance between Sri Lanka and the IMF, each with their own priorities and concerns. The IMF program provided crucial financial support, injecting much-needed capital into the struggling economy and helping to stabilize the financial system. More than just money, the program offered a roadmap for essential reforms, a blueprint for transforming Sri Lanka's economy and building a more resilient future. Fiscal consolidation, aimed at reducing the government's debt burden, and structural changes, designed to improve the efficiency and competitiveness of the economy, were required. These reforms were often painful, demanding sacrifices from all segments of society and testing the limits of their endurance. However, they were deemed necessary for long-term stability, the foundation upon which a prosperous future could be built. In response to soaring inflation, the government tightened monetary policy, raising interest rates to curb spending and stabilize prices. Simultaneously, efforts were made to improve revenue collection, plugging loopholes and strengthening tax administration, and the rupee was allowed to float freely in the foreign exchange market. Understandably, these measures initially deepened hardship, placing an additional burden on already struggling households and businesses. Yet they were crucial for restoring international confidence, signaling to the world that Sri Lanka was serious about tackling its economic challenges. Debt restructuring talks with creditors, aimed at easing the country's debt burden and freeing up resources for development, became a central focus. Negotiations with key creditors, especially India and China, were particularly critical given their significant holdings of Sri Lankan debt. This complex process became a defining feature of the recovery, shaping the trajectory of Sri Lanka's economic future. The process has demanded sacrifices from all sectors, a collective effort requiring compromise and cooperation from every corner of society. This included government, which had to implement unpopular policies, business, which faced increased costs and uncertainty, and ordinary citizens, who bore the brunt of the economic hardship. International partners have played a vital role, providing financial assistance, technical expertise, and diplomatic support. Despite the progress made, the road ahead remains challenging, fraught with uncertainties and potential setbacks. Sri Lanka's comeback is still unfolding, a work in progress that requires sustained effort and unwavering commitment. This journey is shaped by lessons learned from the past and the ever-present realities of a complex global environment where economic and political forces constantly interact. The world watches with keen interest, observing Sri Lanka's progress and drawing lessons from its experience. The international community is learning from Sri Lanka's experience in crisis management and reform, hoping to glean insights that can be applied to other countries facing similar challenges. By April and May 2025, Sri Lanka's economy shows cautious optimism, but challenges remain. Public investment is lagging, threatening the pace of recovery and job creation. IMF-mandated reforms have boosted tax revenues, helping reduce the fiscal deficit. However, higher taxes and costs continue to strain households and businesses. Inflation is now in single digits, and the rupee has stabilized, signaling progress. Modest economic growth suggests the worst is over, but recovery is uneven. Small businesses and families still face high living costs and limited credit. Social safety nets are stretched, struggling to protect the most vulnerable. Addressing these grassroots challenges is vital for an inclusive recovery. The path forward requires balancing fiscal discipline with support for those still struggling. Sri Lanka's strategic location makes it a focal point in global power rivalries. In 2025, Colombo continues to balance ties with India and China, both key creditors and partners. Maintaining neutrality is essential to secure aid and protect sovereignty. The government's friends with all, enemies with none policy aims to maximize benefits while avoiding entanglement. Decisions on ports, infrastructure, and security are closely watched by global powers. Sri Lanka must ensure its choices serve national interests without provoking regional tensions. Broadening partnerships with the US, Japan, and Europe helps diversify support. Navigating these currents will shape Sri Lanka's economic and political future. Restructuring external debt is a multifaceted challenge, requiring careful negotiation and strategic planning. Especially crucial are the discussions and agreements with major creditors like India and China, whose involvement is pivotal for Sri Lanka's path to economic stability. Their cooperation has been crucial, providing a foundation for Sri Lanka's recovery and future growth prospects. Agreements with these major creditors, secured through diligent negotiation, were absolutely necessary to unlock further financial support from the International Monetary Fund, which is vital for implementing broader economic reforms. The deals extend repayment periods, providing much-needed breathing room for the nation's finances and, in some cases, lower interest rates, significantly easing the immediate pressure on the country's debt-servicing obligations. This easing of immediate pressure allows for a more sustainable approach to long-term economic planning. India acted quickly with assurances, demonstrating a strong commitment to supporting Sri Lanka during this challenging period, while China preferred detailed bilateral talks, emphasizing a meticulous approach to addressing the complexities of the debt situation. These agreements collectively improve debt sustainability, paving the way for a more stable economic future. But it's important to remember that these agreements don't erase the debt. Fiscal discipline and robust export growth remain vital components of a comprehensive recovery strategy. The ultimate success of these deals depends heavily on Sri Lanka's ability to generate sustained economic growth and attract foreign investment, and crucially, maintain transparency in all financial dealings to foster trust and accountability. They set important precedents for future borrowing practices and rebuilding international trust, which is essential for long-term financial stability. Ongoing negotiations with private creditors add another layer of complexity to the already intricate debt restructuring process. Sri Lanka's diplomatic efforts in skillfully managing these complex international relationships are paramount. These efforts are a testament to its evolving role and increasing influence in the arena of global finance. The ultimate outcome of these negotiations will significantly influence its long-term financial health and economic prospects for many years to come, shaping the nation's trajectory. Sri Lanka's ports, Colombo, Hambantota, and Trincomalee, are strategic assets with global significance. Colombo is a major transshipment hub, while Hambantota and Trincomalee offer vast development potential. Recent policies on foreign vessel visits highlight Sri Lanka's delicate balancing act between major powers. India worries about Chinese influence. China sees the ports as vital for its Belt and Road Initiative. The US, Japan, and others advocate for open, rules-based maritime access. Effective port management can drive economic growth and connectivity. Strategic partnerships and investment are needed, but must align with Sri Lanka's autonomy. The future of these ports is tied to the nation's prosperity and independence. Their management will shape Sri Lanka's role in the Indian Ocean. The IMF's Extended Fund Facility remains the backbone of Sri Lanka's reform agenda. By mid-2025, key milestones have been reached, unlocking further international support. Major reforms include broadening the tax base, restructuring state-owned enterprises, and improving governance. Anti-corruption measures and fiscal transparency are central to rebuilding trust. Progress is closely monitored by the IMF and global partners. Each review determines continued funding and signals confidence in Sri Lanka's recovery. Meeting these benchmarks is challenging but essential for long-term stability. The government faces pressure to deliver results while managing public discontent. The IMF's support is conditional, demanding sustained commitment to reform. Despite progress, Sri Lanka's recovery faces major hurdles. Public fatigue with austerity and reforms is growing, especially with elections looming. High debt levels persist, and any global downturn could threaten stability. Trade deficits and slow infrastructure development remain risks. Revitalizing investment and creating jobs are crucial for long-term growth. External shocks and geopolitical instability add to the uncertainty. Deeply embedding reforms and fighting corruption are vital for resilience. Continued international support and policy consistency will be key to overcoming these challenges. Sri Lanka's journey from crisis to recovery is a story of resilience and reform. Inflation is down, the currency is stable, and growth has returned, though challenges remain. Continued commitment to reforms and smart diplomacy are essential for lasting progress. Public fatigue, debt, and infrastructure needs must be addressed. The nation's strategic location and human capital are powerful assets. If Sri Lanka stays the course, it can build a more robust, competitive economy. The coming years will determine if this hard-won progress can be sustained. The world is watching, hopeful for Sri Lanka's continued success.